Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Talk about the day the music died. Pras Michel of the Fugees is going to the clink for 14 years. A couple of years ago, he caught 10 federal felonies, including illegal campaign contributions and failure to register as an agent of China and witness tampering. This week, he was convicted on all charges. What prosecutors said was that he had obtained over $120 million from a Malaysian billionaire, Low Take Joe, also known as Joe Low, and he steered some of that money through straw donors to Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. The feds say that Michel also tried to stop a Justice Department investigation of Low, and he tampered with 2 witnesses and perjured himself at trial. Now, as everybody knows, I'm not into music, and I really couldn't tell you what subgenre that the Fugees are in, but given these charges, it's probably gangster rap. With some foreigner who's using his money to influence U.S. elections, you would think that the feds would be after this Joe Low character in particular, and they are. They recovered over $1 billion of money that this guy swindled when he was pretending to be running a government development program for the Malaysians. But in reality, he was just stealing billions of dollars and then he went on the lam. Low Joe has since been charged with conspiring to launder the funds and violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. A U.S. arrest warrant has been issued for him, but he remains at large. It's not known exactly where he is, but it's rumored that he's in China. So this guy's the big fish that the feds should be after. And with Donald Trump always whining about China every 5 minutes, you would think that he would be putting some pressure on them to get this guy extradited to the United States. But as usual, the white media is making sure that a black person is going to be turned into the face of this particular scandal. That's their stock in trade. This prosecution began during the Biden administration back in 2023, and now it's been concluded under Trump. There's just so many immigrants wrapped up in all this. Michel, Low Joe, Barack Obama. It needs to be spoken on. Speaking of immigrants, I also find it interesting that the white media made sure to mention that although Michel himself was born in Brooklyn, his parents are immigrants from Haiti. I gotta wonder how many of the Fugees fans were aware of that little factoid. And whether or not this guy's parents happen to be from Haiti or not, that is something that we should discuss, because in their opening statement, the federal prosecutors portrayed Michel as being cash-strapped and willing to do the bidding of a foreign government in exchange for a payday. And the feds weren't the only ones portraying this guy as having no money. His own defense attorney reminded jurors that Michel had grown up in poverty before he founded the Fugees. This is interesting because the story that we get from the tethers and foreign flags is that all the immigrants come to the U.S. with pocket lint, and the very first generation they go from rags to riches. They become millionaires overnight, that the people who get off the boats are all so hardworking and they know how to get money. And well, those foundational black Americans, they're just lazy and dumb and unambitious, etc. Well, in the case of Pras Michel, this certainly wasn't true. His parents refugee to the U.S., and they didn't have any money and didn't acquire any because Michel's own father said that he grew up in poverty and didn't make any money until he started the Fugees. So that first generation story is false, and that's how his own defense attorney portrayed him. On the federal side, it was even worse. They said that he was cash-strapped and willing to do whatever a foreign government wanted because he needed a payday. So, after all of the years or decades that he spent on tour, or the hundreds of millions of records that the Fugees allegedly sold, in the end, Pras Michel apparently ran out. Didn't have anything to show for it. So I guess that's the reason why we don't have a whole lot of those foreign flags and tethers who are trying to stick up for this guy. It doesn't fit their narrative. I know that not all immigrants say things like that. We have immigrants right here in the B1 who definitely don't, but we have to be honest. The majority do talk like that. They push the whole immigrant success story thing as a way to do self-validation. But they always make sure that while they're patting themselves on the back for victories real or imagined, they want to make sure that they take shots at us. And the talking point is usually, these foreigners come here and they're financially successful after one generation. So what's wrong with you Negroes? What's wrong with you black people? The reality, of course, is that we see plenty of immigrants who are anything but successful. You go to any of the major cities where the immigrants happen to collect, and you're going to find a lot of them who are either on some form of government assistance or in many cases on the streets. And their definition of success, quote unquote, is usually working for the government in some capacity or another, working for the government or some place that's government adjacent, like a school or something. They don't become millionaires overnight by and large, only a few do. In many cases, success simply means having a job. And while there's nothing wrong with that, there is something wrong with somebody deciding that they're going to use getting a job, which may be the first they've ever had, with somehow being better than the people who made it possible for them to even be here. But the truth always comes to the surface. Pras Michel grew up poor, like most immigrants. His parents were not some success story, because most immigrants are not a success story. But the problem is they have so many hateful and spiteful immigrants who claim that because they're desperate to ingratiate themselves with white power. That's how they intend to get themselves out of poverty. What I'd like to know is, Pras Michel, being a Haitian American, where's his community to stick up for him? I'm talking about the one that normally would be claiming him under any other circumstances. Because, not surprisingly, they're laying low right now. We all know that if Pras Michel had gotten himself elected to office, or if he had made like some sort of big, legitimate business deal with some legitimate Malaysian businessman, these exact same immigrants who aren't saying anything right now, they would normally be coming out the woodwork bragging about Haitians are so successful, so uniquely successful. Well, if you want to take collective credit for someone's success based on their incidental origins, then you also have to take collective blame when things like this happen. Keep in mind, the same people who claim to be so proud of their fellow immigrants also make sure to say that if someone's second or third generation, well, that doesn't matter. They're still Haitian, Nigerian, Jamaican, fill in the blank, etc. People like Candace Owens, who were born in the U.S., go out of their way to identify as Caribbean. And that being the case, if you want to go ahead and try to claim that somebody who was born in the U.S. is actually Nigerian, actually Haitian, etc., then times like this, you got to say the exact same thing. That's not an American who did that. That's a Haitian who did that. Now, what comes next for Pras Michel, since he's going to have a lot of free time on his hands? After the whole mini saga between Diddy and Trump, will he or will he not pardon them? There's some who are probably wondering if they should reach out to Trump and see if maybe he'll pardon Michel's conviction. I can tell you right now, that would be a mistake. Donald Trump is anticipating that the lawfare campaign against him will resume as soon as he leaves office. So one of his goals has been to put as many cases on his political enemies as he can. He was dogged throughout his first term by claims that Russia was helping his campaign. Well, now here's a confirmed case where Barack Obama's campaign was getting millions illegally from a foreigner. I have to wonder, though, what are the chances that the orange man might decide to follow up on this case and say, well, Obama got money from a foreigner, it was illegal, and it needs to be fully investigated, we need hearings, we need a special prosecutor because of all the things they said about me that wasn't true, but here, this is the real thing that actually happened. I think it's worth mentioning this story because this is the kind of thing that Trump might want to use as fodder. This possibility doesn't seem to have come up on a lot of people's radars, but it's come up on mine. So I'd like to ask, where is Pras Michel's community at? Because if the orange man decides to go after Obama with this or try to generate some sort of case, we'll be asking the same question about him too. Where are the Kenyans at to stick up for the first Kenyan president of the United States? Because when he got elected back in 2008, you had all these folks in Africa who were jumping up and singing and dancing and celebrating as if they had won something. Then again, when you look at Obama's policies, particularly regarding immigration, I think maybe they were onto something. But regardless, it seems that if things hold true, Pras Michel's not going to be out of prison until he's ready for retirement. What a shame. Pras Michel's final record is going to be a criminal one. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Suleiman Alaji, James Green, Darren Nooks, Reasonable Dude, and Black Rye. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.